And the fact that it's found in the water, downriver, yeah, it's just strange. It's strange. So we're organizing a search for Jack and Lilly Sullivan. We are relying on community members to come and join those efforts. We're going to offer like a little bit of shooting from the hip training on walking along looking for evidence. We've had about 40 people volunteer, but overnight you've had...
Just now, the RCMP has confirmed two major and strange updates in the Lilly and Jack Sullivan case, and these new details are already reshaping theories, timelines, and the direction of the investigation. For weeks, people believed the search was stalling until today, because for the first time in a while, investigators have officially confirmed two unusual findings. Findings that don't just deepen the mystery, they raise brand new questions about who was near the Sullivan home, what really happened that night, and where Lilly and Jack could be. Stay with me, because each new detail is more surprising than the last. Before we get into confirmed updates, here's the expanded version. Over 300 words, no intro or outro, just a narrative as requested. Before we dive into the confirmed updates, here's a fast but essential recap, the kind that pulls everything back into focus and reminds us just how complex, exhausting, and emotionally heavy this case has become. Earlier this year, Lilly and Jack Sullivan vanished from their rural community in a disappearance that escalated within hours into one of the largest combined community-led and RCMP-supported searches Nova Scotia has seen in recent memory. Entire neighborhoods mobilized. Volunteers from surrounding towns and provinces drove in, forming search teams that combed through dense forests, deep roadside ditches, winding riverbanks, and remote backroads. People waded through mud, pushed through thick underbrush, and covered terrain that even experienced hikers described as unforgiving. At the same time, the RCMP worked on the investigative side, analyzing hours of surveillance from gas stations, rural highway cameras, and private properties. They reviewed digital records, looked at cell phone data, traced possible movements, and rechecked interview notes from anyone who might have seen or heard something. Even something they didn't realize was important at the time. But as the days turned into weeks, theories multiplied online. Social media skyrocketed with speculation, unexplained footprints, strange objects, possible sightings, and dozens of interpretations of what might have happened that night. The public grew frustrated, not because no one was working, but because the RCMP remained almost entirely silent. Their selective, tightly controlled updates left people concerned that investigators were either stuck or withholding information. But despite that silence, RCMP investigators kept moving behind the scenes. Evidence logs were still being updated. Tips were still being reviewed. Interview follow-ups continued quietly. And now, after weeks of almost no official clarity, two significant pieces of information have been confirmed. And the first one is tied to something that has hovered in the background of this case since the very beginning, a strange sound that multiple people reported hearing on the night Lilly and Jack disappeared. A detail that now carries new weight in light of the RCMP's confirmation. The first major RCMP-confirmed detail comes from official court documents and verified witness interviews. And in a case filled with theories, this is one of the few pieces of information that is both documented and treated as credible evidence by investigators. Several neighbors living near the Sullivan property reported hearing the same unusual thing during the early morning hours of May 2nd. The distinct sound of a loud vehicle approaching, stopping briefly, then leaving, and doing this not once, but multiple times throughout the night. These weren't vague comments or casual recollections. These statements were formally recorded, logged in investigative files, and reviewed alongside other early timeline evidence. What makes this so important is how sharply it contradicts the original assumption that the night Lilly and Jack vanished had been quiet and uneventful. Instead, these reports paint a very different picture, one that suggests intentional movement, repeated activity, and possibly someone returning to the area more than once. For investigators, this changes the framework entirely. A single vehicle passing by might be dismissed as coincidence. Multiple passes, especially in a rural area at unusual hours, signal a pattern worth examining closely. And the RCMP has taken it seriously. They've already compared descriptions provided by neighbors. Things like engine noise, speed, the direction of travel, and how long the vehicle paused. They've cross-checked these accounts with known vehicles in the surrounding region. They've analyzed camera footage from gas stations, rural road intersections, and any nearby properties equipped with motion-activated recording. Even with limited visibility and scattered camera coverage, investigators have been working to align the sound reports with a potential physical match. But here's the strange part. Despite confirming the existence of these statements, the RCMP has not publicly linked the vehicle to any suspect, timeline event, or known individual. They have not said whether it belonged to a resident, a passerby, or someone unknown. They haven't clarified whether it fits into or contradicts the current timeline. They've only confirmed one thing, that this witness information is real, documented, and continues to be treated as an active lead. And that brings us directly to the second confirmed update, one that even surprised volunteers who have been closest to the ground searches. The second RCMP-confirmed update involves the volunteer search teams. The same people who have been combing forests, riverbanks, and backroads for months, often working longer hours than anyone expected and revisiting the same areas again and again. Recently, these volunteers came across a series of items that immediately caught attention. A small child's t-shirt partially buried near a tree root, fragment of a colorful blanket tangled around low branches, and even a tricycle left near an overgrown trail close to the river. Photos and descriptions of these discoveries spread online within hours, triggering huge waves of debate. People argued over colors, sizes, fabric patterns, and whether any of it resembled clothing seen in earlier pictures of Lilly or Jack. Many believed these were the breakthroughs searchers had been waiting for. But then the RCMP delivered a confirmation no one expected. None of the items were relevant to the investigation. Not one. According to investigators, everything that volunteers found, no matter how childlike or suspicious appeared, was ultimately ruled out after examination. They checked the materials, the sizes, the stitching, the colors, and any possible identifiers. They compared everything to lists of belongings from the Sullivan home. And when all the checks were complete, the conclusion was clear. None of the items matched anything associated with Lilly or Jack. They showed no connection, no trace, no meaningful link. The shock wasn't just because the items were dismissed. It was because of where they were found. Volunteer teams insisted these locations had been searched before, some of them more than once. That means the items appeared after earlier sweeps, yet still had nothing to do with the missing children. This introduces a strange and uncomfortable question. How do unrelated children's belongings end up in the very zones that have been so heavily searched? Were the items dropped accidentally by local families passing through weeks later? Did weather or rising water move them into new positions? Did someone place them without knowing the impact it would have? Or was it simply an eerie, frustrating coincidence? The RCMP hasn't expanded on their ruling. They provided no details about testing, timelines, or how recently the items might have arrived in those spots. But this confirmation is already reshaping the way search teams approach new discoveries. Every object must now be treated with both urgency and skepticism, because even finds that look meaningful can turn out to be unrelated, further complicating a case already full of unanswered questions. If you put those two confirmed updates side by side, they don't just add detail. They compound into a cluster of urgent, uncomfortable questions that push the investigation into a new phase of scrutiny. First, if a vehicle was indeed moving around a Sullivan property multiple times in the early hours, the obvious question is who was behind the wheel. In a rural area, repeated passes aren't easily explained away as random traffic. They imply purpose, timing, and potentially knowledge of the location. Investigators will be asking whether the vehicle belongs to a local resident, a passerby who noticed something and returned, or someone with a motive to be in the area. They'll want registration records, service histories, license plate traces, and any surveillance that might place a car on those roads at those precise times. Second, the dismissal of the volunteer-found items, clothing, blanket pieces, a tricycle, complicates the physical search narrative. If those items are unrelated, it raises three possibilities, each with different investigative weight. 1. Lilly and Jack never reached those specific riverbank or wooded pockets, meaning the physical trail may be elsewhere. 2. Those items arrived after initial searches, introduced by unrelated people or natural forces, which would suggest a riverbank is still a noisy environment where evidence can be obscured or contaminated. 3. Someone deliberately placed decoy items in highly searched zones, either to mislead or by accident, a possibility that would widen the inquiry to include intent and timing of third-party activity. Layered onto that is the timing question. Why would movement be occurring near the home right when investigators believe a key event took place? If the vehicle noises and the later inexplicable appearance of children's items are temporally linked to the disappearance window, that synchrony becomes more than coincidence. It becomes a critical thread. Detectives will likely be reconstructing minute-by-minute timelines, cross-referencing witness accounts with digital timestamps, surveillance clips, and call or vehicle records to see who could have been present and why. All of this explains the RCMP's current tactical silence. Revealing too much to contaminate leads, alert persons of interest, or